Okay, so welcome to part 5 of this how to make a shirt. We're now on to the cuff, which is in the book for the pattern is steps 29 through to 32, which is on page 36, and the diagrams to explain it are on page 37 of the book. So to start with, we need to iron on the interfacing to one side of the cuff. That will be the side of the cuff that goes to the outside of the shirt, and it's a bit easier if you're not working in two different fabrics. If you're working in the same fabric, you'll iron it onto opposing pattern pieces, if that makes sense. So as you can see here, I can show you very quickly. As you can see, these two pieces are effectively mirror pieces with the notches on this one. The top one is to the left and the bottom notch is to the right, and on this piece the top notch is to the right and the bottom one is to the left. So when you do it, if you're doing it in one particular fabric, you'll need to do the matching pieces, because on each sleeve that will be the corresponding outside. Okay, so I'm just going to iron this on first. Okay, so that's the interfacing ironed on to each piece. What we now have to do is we need to fold over 1.5 centimetres on the top. So this is the side that will actually attach to the sleeve, and it's a very similar process when we finish off as we did with the collar stand, if you remember in part, that was part 3 I think, where you fold it over first, because then when you sew it on the front and top stitch it, it gives you a neat edge like so. So we need to fold over 1.5 centimetres, iron that over, and then just snip down the seam to 1/4 inches. Okay, so that's 1.5 centimetres ironed over, and now we're just going to cut that down to 1/4 inch or so. Again, I tend to just eyeball this. Okay, so that's our two cuffs done. Okay, so now we need to attach the other side of the cuff. This will be the bit that goes inside the shirt. So this will be like this inside the shirt, and this will be the outside. So we need to attach these bits together. It's easy to line up because you've got notches to help you line up. So that one there like so. And over. So you're doing right sides together. So, and then we're going to sew a 1.5 centimetre seam around these 3 sides. Right, so we've stitched around the 3 sides. There we go. Okay, so now we're going to cut this seam down where we've sewn, and then we'll cut diagonally across the corners and then turn them round through the right sides, and then iron to press it all in place. So very simply, when you cut the corners, make sure you don't cut through your stitch line. So that's one cut, and we're going to turn it through to the right sides, and then we'll press that. So I'll do that with both of them now, and then I'll show you how to attach it to the shirt. Okay, so we've got both the cuffs done now. That's one, that's the other side, and then that's the white one. So as you can see, you've got the piece without the lining, where you've still got your notch showing, and then the piece with the interfacing, with the edge ironed over. Let's turn the right sides out and ironed to neaten it up. So now we're at the stage of adding the cuffs onto the shirt. So as I mentioned before, it's a similar process to when we added on the collar and the collar stand. So we're going to start by pinning and sewing the inside of the cuff, right side, to the inside of the sleeve, so the wrong side, on both sides. So we're going to sew that on first. And I'm going to turn that inside out because it's a bit easier, I find. So, inside of the sleeve, and again we have our notch here to help us line everything up. So the notch will go to the right side of the right side of the fabric. Okay, so we'll line up that notch and pin. And then pin on the other side. Pin all the way along. Again, this is one of the points where more pins are better, I feel, than less pins. And you want to make sure that your pleats in the sleeve are still facing the right way, so don't get them twisted up. Make sure they're still facing away from this edge here. So this edge here of the sleeve, the placket there, make sure they're facing away. Okay, so that is now securely pinned on. We'll need to sew a 1.5 centimetre seam here now. And what I do to make it a little bit easier, and I should have said before, when I sewed the front part of the cuff onto the back part of the cuff, I don't go all the way to this folded edge here. It just, I find it helps when you want to just hold that back just when you sew the seam, so the top doesn't get caught in the way. Okay, so I'm going to pin the other one in place first, and I'm going to sew them on, and then I'll show you the next step. Okay, so that's both the cuffs now sewn on the inside. So you can see there, that's the inside of the sleeve, and then when you turn it through, that then goes on to the outside. So this is how it will look. So we now need to do a top stitch all the way around the cuff on the front, and in the process that will then attach the top, the opening, onto the end of the sleeve. Okay, so before I do that, I don't cut down this seam too much, but you obviously want to cut off the notches just to tidy up a little bit. Okay, so we do that on both. So the best thing to do is just to pin it in place, just to hold it where you want to, and then just do your top stitching. Okay, so I'm going to top stitch it and then show you what that looks like. Okay, so now we have our two cuffs attached to the shirt on the front. So you've got top stitching all the way round on the white one as well, though it won't show up, I think, as clearly. And then it's attached on the back, obviously, where we sewed it on before. So that is the cuffs finished on the shirt. So now all we have left to do is to do the buttonholes and the hemming of the bottom of the shirt, and that will be in the next and final part of the instructional videos.